big up yourselves. Big up to Chris and Mark. Big up to Lumi Rain each and every time for coming through, guys. Let's go through some of your chats. Hope everyone's doing well today as well. Let's see. So I've heard two rumours. One, the board have demanded changes his system. Two, they are waiting until November to sack him as it will be a lot cheaper then. Yeah, big up Lumi. Again, we'll be getting into that. Obviously, as you guys can see in the title, more or less Amorim forcing Ineos to back him or to sack him, from some of the reports I've been hearing today. So yeah, we'll definitely be getting into that. Just going to go through some more of your questions and then I'll have my say on it. So Chrism says, I heard Amorim offer to resign from his manager's role. To be fair, I've not heard that, and I highly doubt that as well, because, again, if you're Ruben Amorim, you're walking away from 12 million, as a payout. So you'd be very, very crazy to go and do that. I don't think anyone does that, really. You've got to be some sort of different human being if you're going to walk away from 12 mil. So for me, there's no chance Amorim walks away from 12 million, But again, from what I've heard, it's more of a case of him wanting Ineos to either back him or sack him, and again, we're going to get into it. So yeah, so guys, what I would say first and foremost, yeah, in regards to Ruben Amorim, the fact that he's come out with, because for me, the way that I see it, Amorim's not too fussed if he gets sacked. Again, he's got a 12 million payout. And it's one of them things where let's face it, yeah, he's not too fussed. It's obvious. Big up to Barbara Joseph as well. He's not too fussed whether he stays or goes. It's very evident that it's that, it's a big job which he's failed at. Again, I went through some of the the negative stats that he's broken, which is quite a lot. And as I said, it's one of them things now that with Ruben Amorim, he's just biding his time, and again, this is why I said, it's down to Ineos now. Ineos have to take the decision out of the manager's hand. Big up to Mike. Big up Mike for coming through. Big up. So it's down to Ineos now to make a decision, because it's quite clear that Ruben Amorim's time, is coming to an end. I think if you're even a staunch defender of Amorim, you will know that this can't get any better. There's obviously other reports, which I'm going to go through in a minute, that is concerning. And as Mike said, Gav, I bet right now Amorim leaves after Sunderland. Well, as I said, we're going to get into that, Mike. Big up, man. We're going to get into that. But because I personally think, the longer this manager's here now, the worse it's going to get. Because who would have thought going into the Sunderland game on Saturday at 3 o'clock, if he is still here, a newly promoted team, I'm not expecting United to win that game. I think the best they can get is a draw. And that's just based on that's just based on what I'm seeing on the pitch, what I'm hearing off the pitch. So yeah, I don't expect much, man. Big up to Sibel as well for coming on, newcomer. Guys, as always, when you come through, make sure you smash that like button and make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. And again, keep giving me your questions and your comments, and I will definitely get back to them once I've discussed what I've finished what I'm saying. So, but yeah, big up to yourself for coming through. So, as I said, I think with Amorim now, it's coming to a point where, do I believe Ineos get rid of him after the Sunderland game? I think if it's anything less than a win, and again, I can't actually believe that I'm actually still saying this, because I'm just bored of it now. He just needs to go. And again, some of the reports that we're hearing, the fact that he's not close with the younger players. I think when you start hearing things like this, it's over, because the players that he's favouring are a lot of the senior players, the likes of Bruno Fernandes, Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, etc. Those are the players that he's sticking by, and the likes of Kobe, Lenny Yoro, who are the future of the club, they're more or less being sidelined by this manager, because this manager's under pressure. So what he's going to do, he's just going to revert to the older heads. And if he thinks the older heads are going to try and get him through the games, this is why he's going to end up getting sacked. Because why he hasn't got a why he actually hasn't got a a relationship, you would say, with the younger players is concerning. And again, this is a manager that's a young coach, so you would probably think that he might have a bit more of a camaraderie with the younger players. But what we're hearing now is that he doesn't really speak to the younger players as much, which is why the likes of Kobe, even Joshua Zirkzee, these kind of players are not really getting much game time. It all makes sense. Guys, bear me 1 minute, delivery. 1 second. Hi, mate. Nice one, mate. Yeah, guys, sorry about that. But so yeah, as I said, man, I think the fact that he hasn't got a relationship with those players, I think it spells the end for him, definitely. And the fact that he's coming out with back him or sack him to Ineos, as I said, he's not too fussed. It's obvious. Would you be fussed really? Going to one of the biggest clubs in the world and it not working out, and then you've got a 12 million payout if you do get sacked. Obviously there's been stories about United waiting to November because obviously it means that they pay him less money. For me personally, I think you have to just bite the bullet, man. And because the longer this goes on, the worse it's going to get. It's clearly evident that the majority of these players are not playing for this manager no more. And the fact that he leans on the likes of Dalot, Bruno, Maguire, Shaw, 4 players there that the majority of the fan base will definitely tell you that needs to go. That tells you everything, guys. It tells you everything that this manager is at the end, really. And as I said, man, I just feel deflated, man, because this is a club that I've been supporting ever since I was young. Some of the players that we've seen, obviously Sir Alex in charge. Some of the players we've seen at the club, the likes of Eric Cantona, David Beckham, Mark Hughes, Dwight York, Andy Cole, Ryan Giggs, Paul Scholes, Peter Schmeichel, Yap Stam, Rio Ferdinand, Nemanja Vidic, Patrice Evra, Cristiano Ronaldo, Wayne Rooney, Luis Saha, Carlos Tevez, Nani, Anderson, Owen Hargreaves, Michael Carrick, Gary Neville. There's probably Ronnie Johnson, even players like that many of you probably even forgot about. These are some of the players that we grew up. Ruud van Nistelrooy, Dimitar Berbatov, Pogba, Martial, some of the players that this club have had, some absolute world beaters. And it's a sad state of affairs now that we have to watch Manchester United, with a manager that is clearly out of his depth, with a majority of players, And when I'm saying majority of players, I'm saying a lot of the players that have been there for a while, a lot of the players that are just not good enough, because the likes of, and as Mike has said as well, the likes of Yoro, Lemenza new signing, Dorgu, Ahmad, Sesko, Mainu, Zirkzee, Mbuemo, Cunha. Man United have some very good players there and who are the future of the club. But when you're getting the manager, by all reports that are coming out saying that he is now backing the older players, what does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you that this manager hasn't got a clue what he's doing and he's lost the dressing room. It's very obvious he's lost the dressing room because when you're under pressure, as a manager, especially at a club at Manchester United, you need everyone pulling in the same direction. And the problem is he's got the majority of the players that are not on his side. It's clearly evident. From what I heard this morning, he is backing. He's sticking with a lot with a lot of the older players. Which is going to be a problem. And for me, it's only a matter of time, guys. It's a matter of time before he does get sacked. We're going to go into this Sunderland game on the weekend. And as I said, man, it's one of them things where I just can't be bothered with this whole, is he going to get sacked if he gets beat by Sunderland? Like, for me, it's gone past that point now because I'm just bored. This is one of the biggest clubs in the world. Manchester United, a team that I've supported since young. I've seen some serious players, just from at this club, and the state this club is in right now, and we are waiting to see if they are going to sack the manager after the Sunderland game. When, let's be honest with you, this decision should have been made last season when he got beat by Tottenham in the Europa League final. So the fact that we're waiting now for this Sunderland game, and then if he does win, this is the problem. If he does win the game, it's going to go back to square one. Let's keep him and see how he gets on. And then we go to Liverpool next game and get absolutely battered there. And then it's back to the same, it's back to the same thing. So again, I don't believe that, we should be looking at if he does get through this Sunderland game. The best case scenario for me is if Manchester United win that game against Sunderland and then they sack him and have a fresh idea going into that Liverpool game. Get a new manager in and he can try and implement something going into that Liverpool game, which, again, you're not going to be expected to win that game away from home against Liverpool. But at least a new manager can come in and we can start to just look up rather than looking down. Because Manchester United are, 14th place in the league right now. I'm getting familiar of seeing this team in the bottom half now, which has never been the case from my years of supporting this club. And the fact that we're getting familiar with this, who do we blame? Again, everyone wants to point fingers at Glazers, which I do here, Ineos as well. But I think we have to look at the fan base first and foremost, because the fan base are enabling this manager to still be here. The standards are low at this club, because when you're getting certain fans that are saying that we don't want to change the manager because we keep doing the same thing, it's about upping the standards, I don't care if we keep sacking the manager until we get to the right one. That's the honest truth, because this can't continue any longer. Watching Man United throughout the years that I have been, and we have to see a manager set up in this way with the team. And what's worse about Manchester United now is that it's becoming a case now where we're becoming familiar with losing. That should never be the case at Manchester United. Like, me as a fan, me just speaking the truth, I am becoming familiar with losing as a Man United fan. All my years of supporting this club, we have always been competing for titles. Even if Man United don't win titles, we were always up there competing. We're competing now to stay in the top half. That's how bad it's become. It's an absolute disaster at this club. And again, not everything's on Ruben Amorim, but Ruben Amorim has to take a portion of the blame for me, because Ineos and the Glazers don't tell him to pick to pick certain players. Don't tell him to keep playing Bruno Fernandes in a two in midfield. Don't tell him to play Maguire, Shaw, and the lick back three against pace and power of Brentford. They don't tell him to play Mason Mount left wing back against Grimsby Town. They don't tell him to play Brian Mbeumo as a right 10. They don't tell him to play Ahmad as a right wing back. They don't tell him to play Kobbie Mainoo, even though we know Kobbie Mainoo is more effective in the final third in this system, to continuously play him as a 6 in this system. This is all Ruben Amorim. And the fact that, there's not a lot of fans, from what I'm seeing, calling this nonsense out is part of the problem. Yeah, we know the Glazers are a problem. Yeah, we know Ineos, even though I do think Ineos have done good things, I think in the sense of keeping Ten Hag longer than he should have, I'm not happy with, really. But in the sense of, the infrastructure at the club, in terms of the new training ground, the new stadium that's going to be built, they are putting things in place. So there's no one that can actually deny that. But in terms of this manager still being here, they've failed. They have definitely failed. And I think a lot of fans now as well that are, defenders of Amorim, I think even you guys now would even say that, enough's enough. And it is. And it's not about just keep sacking managers. This manager is just the wrong manager for this club, unfortunately. This 3-4-2-1 system that he's playing is clearly not working. And again, when Amorim is coming out saying they either back him or sack him, and he's going to be adamant that he's going to keep playing the same way. As a Manchester United fan, and as and Ineos themselves, where does this stop then? Because it's quite clear that these players are not playing for him anymore. He's only got a select few, which is what's been reported that he's close with. So, and I think there was a comment that Carragher said yesterday, which is spot on. You know, we're just waiting for a disaster for him to get sacked. And do you know what it is? He's spot on there. Because why are we still hanging in with this manager? He's not taking Manchester United where they need to go. So we're just wasting time with this manager, with this system, and we're just wasting games now. What are we now? 5 games? No, 5 games in, are we? So Arsenal, Fulham, Burnley, City, Chelsea, Brentford. So 6 games in, yeah. When is it come to a point where we just say, yeah, let's just get rid of the manager now? Because by the time it comes 10 games, that's going to be 10 games wasted. Because this manager, I can tell you this now for free, he doesn't put United in the top half with this system and how he sees the game. Man United are not a top half team with this manager. I'll be very surprised if they finish in the top half in a full season under this manager, which it shouldn't really get to that point. You know? So for me, when he's coming out saying back him or sack him, I'm actually quite glad I'm hearing this news now, because it tells me that is coming to an end now. And Ineos, really, they have to come clear now and say if they're going to back him or sack him. And by all accounts, you know, for me, there could be no conversation. You know, you have to sack him for the betterment of the club, because this manager here, I mean, I read out yesterday, guys, you know, the amount of negative records he's broken at Manchester United. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't realize it was that bad, you know. And I think just alone, them negative records are unacceptable. So it's one of them things where, why are we continuously just messing around with this manager when it's quite clear that it's not going anywhere? You know, it's obvious. You know, he's doing things now which would lead you to think that he wants to get the sack. Because I said before that Brentford game, you know, you have to play Lenny Yoro. You have to play Lenny Yoro. Not only has Lenny Yoro been one of our best players this season, but what does Lenny Yoro have in that back line? He has pace. Yeah, big up Sham. He has pace, yeah? And just by looking at the 2 strikers that we're going to play, or the 2 forwards, should I say, Igor Thiago and Kevin Schade. I said definitely in this 3 at the back system, Lenny Yoro needed to play because he needed to deal with Kevin Schade's pace. Yeah? Like, these kind of things that I'm identifying are not rocket science. It's not like groundbreaking stuff. Kevin Schade has pace. Who's the quickest player in the back line? Lenny Yoro. Yeah? So just play Lenny Yoro on that side to deal with Kevin Schade. Yeah? Because when you're getting an instance in that game where Igor Thiago, his second goal come from Schade's pace, which if Lenny Yoro was there, Lenny Yoro could have been able to deal with that. Yeah? The fact that happens and then Thiago scores the second goal, it's like Amorim's either just doing things like this on purpose, or he's just clueless as to what's really going on. And I think he's both. You know, I think he's doing things on purpose because he wants to sack. But I also think as well that, you know, he just doesn't understand what it takes to be a manager of Manchester United. Because when you're making decisions like that, playing Harry Maguire as the last man, you know Harry Maguire hasn't got the pace. And I think he only played Harry Maguire because of Harry Maguire's his aerial ability. Because Igor Thiago is quite a physical striker. You know, he's got pace as well. So he thinks Maguire can, you know, rough him up in a sense. But De Ligt can do that. And De Ligt's better than Maguire. You know, De Ligt's got pace over Maguire. He's strong as well. He's competitive. He's a leader. Just stop being clever, Amorim, and play De Ligt, Yoro. And then I wouldn't have played Shaw. I would have given Aiden Heaven a game. You know. But again, this manager, it's quite clear that he's backing the older heads in the squad because he's under pressure. And ultimately, it's going to be his downfall along with this system. So, it's ridiculous, man. But as I said, Ineos back him or sack him. Guys, I'm going to put a poll up and then I'm going to go through some of your questions. There's 30 of you in there at the moment. So if you're enjoying the content, smash that like button. Make sure you share the content as well, guys. So share the channel, share the content. And if you're enjoying it, as I said, If you're a newcomer, make sure you sub to the channel if you're new in here as well. So I'm going to put a poll up, guys, and I want to see what we're all thinking. Just bear me 1 minute. Because I'll be very interested to see what we're saying on the channel now in terms of Ruben Amorim. So, you guys can see the poll yet? If it's on there. Right, let's move this. Right, guys, if you can see the poll. So, Ruben Amorim, back or sack? So, if you think they should back him, put yes. If you think they should sack him, put no. Sorry, what am I talking about? So, if you think he should be backed, put yes. Now, let me change this, actually. Let me change this one. Yeah, sorry. So, if you think he should be backed, put yes. If you think he shouldn't be backed, put no. So, yeah. So, ignore the sack. Ignore the sack, because I can't change it on here at the moment. Let me see if I can change it. 1 minute. Let me change it, guys. 1 minute. So, does Ruben Amorim deserve the backing? That's what we're going to put on. So, yeah, guys. So, does Ruben Amorim deserve the backing? That's the new poll, yeah? Let's see. What's going on there? Oh, my God. Right. Right, guys. So, yeah. So, does Amorim deserve the backing? That's the new poll, yeah? So, yeah, make sure you vote so I can see where you guys are at, because I have to be honest, yeah? It's not a time for ranting and raving about this manager, yeah? It's quite obvious that this manager does, for me, need to go. But I want to see what a lot of you think, yeah? So we got no 75%, yes 25% so far. So guys, keep your votes coming. I'm going to go back through some of your questions, but big up yourselves each and every time for coming through. And as I said, if you're a newcomer, make sure you sub to the channel. And as always, guys, make sure you smash the like button. When you smash that like button, it helps the channel to grow. So, again, if you're enjoying the content, hit that like button. So, let's see. So, Mike says, Gav, I bet Amorim leaves after Sunderland. Yeah, I think if he gets a negative result against Sunderland, as I mentioned earlier, then I think Ineos will have no option but to sack him. But again, the fact that we're getting to this situation is poor, because it shouldn't get to the situation. They should have identified that this manager, when he got beat by Tottenham in that final after finishing 15th, that was enough, you know, because again, the preseason wasn't good enough for me from what I saw. And then the first 6 games, you know, United have won, what, 2 games, which was the Chelsea game, which was fortunate, let's be honest. And then the last minute penalty, which wasn't. So again, even the 2 games that United have won, if you're an honest person, honest fan, you will know that he's got away with one in both games that they've actually won. There's not been one game you can literally say that they've won confidently. There hasn't been. Again, the Fulham game, they should have been beaten in that game. Lenny Yoro's goal was actually a foul because he actually pushed Bassi in the back. Obviously, Arsenal got beat there. The Burnley one we've spoken about, which wasn't a penalty on Ahmad, it was a foul, but outside the box. City got battered. Chelsea, Robert Sanchez calamity, and along with Maresca. And even that game, that was a struggle. And then beaten by Brentford. So, again, man, these are the kind of things that I'm looking at as to why this manager just can't last any longer. And do I have any faith that United beat Sunderland? I don't. He's clearly lost. He's clearly lost the. He's clearly lost the players. So Mike says, you'll be stupid not to see the results from the manager, players, fans and owners. What we are seeing on the pitch is simply not good enough. And that's a fact, Mike. That's a fact. What we're seeing on this pitch right now, from what Amorim, regardless of what players Amorim hasn't got or the players that he has got, the facts are the buck stops with the manager. And it's quite clear that these players are not playing with him. We're hearing a lot of these players have sacked a lot of managers in the past, etc., which again is not true, because the only players that have been here under multiple managers is the likes of Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Bruno Fernandes, the three, Diogo Dalot, the 4 players that need to go. So the majority of the players that are here now haven't got the majority of managers sacked. So that's just a lie. Anyone that comes out with that nonsense is just absolute nonsense. The players that we've been calling for, or I've been calling for time, that need to go, are the players that have been here under multiple managers. But a lot of the fan base have been backing them players. And all of a sudden now, it's fashionable to call out these players, which is just, it's laughable, Big up to Baba, says, why can't they give him the whole season to see if he can turn things around? All top managers available next year. I don't want to see Southgate or Xavi. So yeah, Baba, man, what I would say is, you see comments like that, give him the whole season. That's part of the problem. Because I always use this analogy, yeah? And if you're running a business, Baba, yeah, and you hire a manager, regardless if he hasn't been given the tools or not, yeah, although, it's a case where, you can look at the owner and say, have I given him the best possible situations or solutions for him to succeed? For me, Ineos have given him a lot of new players, He's the one that wanted to keep Bruno Fernandes, which meant that the club really couldn't spend on a midfielder. So these decisions have been done by him. But what I'm looking at, yeah, is the fact that if you're an owner of a company, yeah, and a lot of you in the chat can vouch for this, yeah, if you're an owner of a company and you've hired a manager and he's losing you money left, right, and centre, and he's not doing a good job, he's not meeting the standards, the requirements, what do? Do you keep him in charge for the whole season, and just see how it goes, or do you sack him in an instant because he's losing you money left, right, and centre? Answer yourself that question, because if you're going to keep the manager in place because you want to give him a whole season to see how it turns around, but he's losing you money, then I'm sorry, you're just dumb, because that should never happen. You have to make a change because he's losing you money. It's as simple as that. Like, I just don't understand people's thinking of giving him a whole season. The guy's had, 9 months, and he's got 9 wins in 9 months in the Premier League. At what point do we start saying, you know what? Let's hold our hands up. This manager isn't the manager that we thought he was. It's our mistake. Like, I get it. Ineos want to probably save face because they've probably realised they've made a huge error in identifying this manager. But the reality is, this manager just ain't doing nothing with this team. He's clearly lost the players. He's breaking every negative record that there is at the club. And when I'm saying every negative record, guys, he's breaking records that stood in the 1930s, before I was even born. So when you're hearing things like this, it's like, at what point do you just think, yeah, let's just pull the plug on this manager? If it's going to cost us 12 million, then so be it. So be it. But for the betterment of the team, Cherky's back in training now. Cherky's back in training. Okay. Yeah, so for the betterment of the team, you have to just pull the plug. I'm sorry. And then when you're saying Southgate or Xavi, yeah, guys, I'm going to tell you this for the last time, yeah, because I keep hearing Southgate's name, yeah. Manchester United are not going to hire Gareth Southgate. Yeah, Gareth Southgate is just a name that's being used because the manager's on the edge. You know, Man United are not going to hire Gareth Southgate. They're not going to do that. So I don't even know why Southgate's being mentioned. You know, I don't even know why it's being mentioned. I think it's just like Ineos might have him as one of the names, yeah, but they're not going to go and hire Gareth Southgate. I can say that for free. It's not going to happen. You know, I don't know why people are getting annoyed that Southgate's name's in there. They're not going to hire Gareth Southgate. Xavi's on a free. You know, if I had the choice between Xavi and Premier League proven, for me, definitely I'm taking Premier League proven at the moment because I'm sick and tired of seeing different new managers from a different league come in there and just being fooled, really. Because the amount of managers that have come to the league, the likes of Ten Hag, the likes of Amorim lately, that I'm thinking, do you know what? European-based football, they're gonna bring something to the club, and we can be excited with. But these managers they've all fooled me, put it that way, because the players that they're actually backing are the players that I don't actually rate. So when you see things like that, then this is when you know what? Let's just go and get someone that's already in the league. And obviously, everything points towards Glasner. Everything points towards Iraola. You know, so Premier League proven. I'll be happy with them too. I wouldn't mind Xavi personally. I wouldn't mind Xavi because the first thing we know is Xavi, as a footballer, he's going to play the best players. Yeah. But at the moment, I'm just a bit skeptical of bringing in another manager that is not already here. Because although I do believe Xavi will do a lot better job than Ruben Amorim, yeah, I just can't put money on it. Yeah, I can't be confident that another manager coming from a different league is gonna pick the players that I like to see play football. I mean, Xavi for me is the one that I think could do that because of the kind of player that he was, but I'm just not sure. But if United go and get Xavi or a Zidane, as I said, I want a Zidane for time, then I'll be happy. But at this moment, I think everything does point towards Premier League proven. You know, I think Iraiola's got what, a 5 million release clause or something like that in his contract. Iraiola's got a year left. Glasner's got a year left on his contract. I think Glasner's a top manager. The only thing I would say, and he is playing a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3 at Palace. I just think he's playing that formation because he's adapting to the players. I don't think he plays that if he was to come to United. I don't think he does that. So, but just based on that, we have to be cautious because I'm just sick and tired of seeing this 3-4-2-1 because it means you're not getting the best players on the pitch, and it means players like an Ahmad have to play out of position. So this is why I'm not in favour of that. But if you go and get me any one of them four, Zidane, Xavi, Iraola or Glasner, I'll be happy. But one thing's for certain, man, this manager can't continue any longer. You know, he can't. One point, Gav, I can't defend Amrim anymore and his excuses because, one, these senior players he keeps trusting are the ones who are going to get him sacked. Two, he's very rigid and don't trust the youth. Big up to Mike, man. 100% agree with that. 100% agree with that. Yeah, listen, when you're putting your faith in Bruno Fernandes, Dallo, Maguire and Shaw, them four in particular, how do you expect it to get better? Because let's face it, all four of those players shouldn't even be in the lineup if we're being serious. So if he's placing his trust in them, it's a matter of time, put it that way. It's a matter of time. Big up to Callum, Man United. Big up Callum for coming on. First thing to buy a good magnet for Man U, you have to control your dress. Oh, so L4W7 says the first thing for a good manager for Man United, you have to control your dressing room. I agree. And it's quite clear that these players are not playing for him, which is why there's been reports of him leaning towards the senior players. And whenever you hear things like this, you kind of know that the manager is literally at the end. So this is why I said, is it going to come down to this Sunderland game, which it shouldn't, but it could actually be the defining game, you know. And again, if Man United happen to beat Sunderland, you know, I'll tell you this right now. Am I going to be happy? I'm not, because there's another loss around the corner, whether it's Liverpool, and then you think of the games against Brighton, Nottingham Forest, and Tottenham. Those three games there, the fact that he's lost the dressing room, the fact that he's relying on certain players, which are the players that need to go. Am I confident of, if Amorim somehow survives the international break, of him picking up wins against Forest, Brighton, and Tottenham? I'm not. I'll have to be honest. I'm not. So what is the point of Ruben Amorim still being there, really? And you can kind of see Ruben Amorim is just begging the ball to sack him. He's asking for it. You can kind of see that. It's like, it's so obvious that he isn't too fussed if he gets sacked or not. And this is the problem, guys. Ineos just need to take it out of his hands and sack him. And it has to end. It does have to end, because it's just getting to a point now where we're just, there's some fans out there, and I can't really blame them, because, a lot of fans are out there now just hoping United lose just so this manager goes. I'm always of the opinion that I don't want to see my club lose, because, when you've had rivalry for years against the likes of Arsenal, Liverpool, City, you never want to see your team get beat. Yeah. But unfortunately, it's come to this point now where to get rid of this manager, it has to get worse. And as crazy as it sounds, I kind of understand that. But again, it should never get to that point, because what it should happen is that this manager should be gone, and then we get a new manager in place, and we can kind of, get behind that manager and see what he does. But the very first thing I said was, when I saw the fact that this manager was picking certain players, this is where he lost me. This is where Ten Hag lost me. Because I've always maintained the belief that if you're any manager, it's about identifying who your best players are. And the best players for me at Manchester United are the ones that don't play regularly. The likes of Kobe, the likes of Xerxes, the likes of Ahmad, Lenny Yoro, De Ligt. Even though them guys have been playing, but in the attack, Xerxes, Mainu, and Ahmad are three players that either don't play regularly or playing out of position. So when I saw that Ten Hag was doing that, when I saw that Amorim's doing that, this is where they lost me, because the best players need to play, And I'm not saying that these players there are the finished article, or they're going to be players that take United back to the top, but you have to start from somewhere. And as a manager, it's about identifying who your best players are, which this manager, Ruben Amorim, is just incapable of doing. So, big up to Young Fighter, says Real Madrid is the best. Well, I think Atletico Madrid would have something to say about that. That 5-2 battering, not to mention Barcelona for me. So, Gavi's going down the same route as ETH towards the end. He also dismissed the youth and trusted these senior players to bail him out, and look where it got ended. Big up, Mike. There you go. There you go. Whenever you're hearing reports like this, that he's backing the senior players, it's coming to an end, because those senior players are the ones that should be out of the club and shouldn't be playing. So, yeah, he's coming to an end. Guys, come on, make sure we're voting on this post. So we got 35% say yes, 65% say no. So does Ruben Amorim deserve the backing? So make sure you put your vote in, guys. Big up. So Baba says, sack the manager, it's fine, but I don't want to see Shaw, Maguire, Dalot, Bruno play for the new manager. Serial losers, these lots sacking managers after managers. So again, when you're hearing these players are sacking manager after manager, you're only talking about really 4 players, which is why this whole narrative that these players get the manager to sack is an absolute lie. And the thing is, these 4 players, Shaw, Maguire, Dalot, and Bruno, they're 4 players that the majority of the fan base have always backed. So when you're seeing fans now saying that these players are back sacking managers and all that kind of stuff, these players should have been gone long time ago. I've always been someone, before I even had my channel, that have said that the likes of Bruno, Maguire, they're part of the problem. They have been, you know. I think in terms of professionalism, you know, I actually don't mind Maguire in that sense. But ultimately, Maguire is a backup option. Luke Shaw has been there over 10 years. You know, when Luke Shaw first come to the club, I was excited. You know, having seen him at Southampton, you know, I was thinking, yep, we've got a left back here that can be one of the best left backs in Europe. But the facts are, he spent half his time out injured, and his professionalism has been called into question. You know, he's still here. Dalot, for me, I like Dalot when he first came through, you know, and Dalot, for me, I would say Dalot has a place as a backup, but in a four at the back. If he can back up Mazraoui as a right back, which is where I think he's strongest at, I'm not too fussed with Dalot because, again, Man United are not going to go out and get another right back. So if you've got someone like Dalot that can back up Mazraoui, I'm not too fussed, yeah? Bruno Fernandes is a different story because for so many reasons, Bruno Fernandes has been a problem for this team. And the fact that now people are only opening their eyes to see that is part of the problem, really, because he's been a problem when he first come to the club, which, again, there's no point getting into because, you know, I've spoken about this so many times, you know. If you're only realising that Bruno's a problem, then where have you been? That's what I would say. Yeah, big up Mike. So the fan base are also to blame because they want to give this guy time when we can clearly see this ship is slowly sinking. Bro, listen, I can't disagree, man. Like, it's if you're not realizing that this manager is doing more harm to the club than anything, then I'm sorry, man. Like, you're just either stubborn like he is, or you're just blind because this manager is like, never did I think, yeah, that this club would go backwards under this manager from what Ten Hag took it. He's actually been a lot worse than Ten Hag. Like, which is unbelievable, you know. If Ineos are really as ruthless as they claim, they will pull the plug straight after Sunderland, win or lose. I agree. So BNHNK says, United players themselves don't have interest to represent that red shirt. They just have their own ego with each other. Again, I mean, that's hard to say because unless you're in the changing room or unless you know these players, you don't actually know what these players are actually thinking. You know, I think on the pitch, people have their own opinions. You know, do I believe that every Man United player that gets out onto that pitch doesn't want to try for the club? I don't believe that. I don't. I mean, again, people have their own opinions. I just think a lot of these players, well, for a start, they're disillusioned with what's going on at the club. And a lot of them aren't good enough. The majority of the players, well, I say the core players that have been there for a while aren't good enough, yeah? But again, as a manager, your job is to provide a system to get your players thriving in. They're clearly not thriving in this system. It's as obvious as that. So, as I said, yeah, it's one of them things where until this manager's gone, you know, how can we expect this team to get better? Because it's not going to happen, you know? It is what it is. Yeah, listen, I've seen Rooney's comments, but again, even Wayne Rooney, like, you know, I don't like Wayne Rooney as a player, top player, you know, as a pundit. I mean, he's just stating what everyone else knows anyway, you know. So I'm not going to take Wayne Rooney's comments as the comments to listen to, really, because he's just stating what's just obvious, you know. The club are a shambles. They are, and are they going to get back to the top? I mean, I hope so, because for my years, as I said, of supporting Manchester United, I've seen Manchester United at the top. You know, this is the worst period this club has been in, and it's been like this for a while. You know, I always said the fact that this club sacked Louis van Gaal was the biggest mistake, because after Sir Alex, David Moyes come in. David Moyes wasn't right for this job, but Louis van Gaal had the experience. You know, the guy was a proven winner. And the very fact that he was doing it on, let's say, a shoestring budget, yeah, with youth players, he never had half the money that the likes of Amorim, Ten Hag, Mourinho had spent on the squad. The fact that Louis van Gaal was building something in place at this club, and then the fan base was too quick to sack him because Mourinho was available. This is why for me you're seeing this club struggle, because I have no doubt that Louis van Gaal was putting things in place for the long-term future of the club. But the fan base they were saying that his football was boring. They got too, excited that Mourinho was available. And ultimately, you could arguably say, even though Mourinho did win trophies here, but Mourinho, in a sense, was the start of the downfall, I would say. I believe he was the start of the downfall because, again, he wanted certain players out, which were the future of the club, He was the one that was playing Scott McTominay in defence, He was self-sabotaging the club because in his eyes, he wasn't getting what he wanted. So for me, he's the one that really started the downfall, in a sense, after Sir Alex. Again, I don't really look at David Moyes because, at least David Moyes was trying to identify top players, which didn't happen because of the pool that he had. But then when Louis van Gaal was in place, Van Gaal was... look at when United went to Liverpool, when I believe Rooney scored the winner. Look at what Van Gaal was implementing for that team. But people were saying his football was boring. It wasn't boring. It's just that he was just building something. And let's face it, yeah. He was doing it with a young Martial, yeah. He was doing it with a young Rashford as well. He never had half the players that a lot of these managers have been getting. But yet fans were just impatient. And now we're seeing what a shambles the club is now. Gav, do you expect that Leeds and Sunderland perform better than United this season? Look, listen, under Ruben Amorim, it's an absolute shambles. And as I said, I don't expect United to finish in the top half under this manager in this system. I don't. So, Sunderland are performing better, and Leeds. Do I see Sunderland and Leeds finishing above Manchester United this season? The fact that I'm actually thinking about it just tells you how bad it is, because I just don't know. Because the longer this manager is here, the worse it's going to get. And again, we got Sunderland on Saturday, which the manager will be in charge for, you'd expect. I don't know if United beat Sunderland, because Sunderland are not shit. Like, they've had some decent results this season. And I just don't know if United beat them. That's how bad it is. We should be going into this game, really, as Manchester United fans, just ticking it off, saying, yep, that's 3 points at home. You can't say that no more. And that's against newly promoted Sunderland. This is how bad the club is now. So I honestly can't tell you if we perform better and finish above those teams. It's because it's that bad. So who knows, man? Big up to Iftikhar, says, Gav, will Xavi come to Man United? I honestly don't know. I've said I've obviously Premier League proven, but if it's Xavi, then I'll be content with that, to be honest. But I just want a manager to come in and ditch this three at the back, play the 4, play players in their strongest positions, get Ahmad in the 10, get Xerxes up top, and let's start building, I like Sesko. I do think Sesko has shown some glimpses. Again, if any of you that have watched my channel for any period, you will know that I didn't want Sesko. The fact that Sesko came in and Højlund went out the door, I was happy with. But for me, I want to see Xerxes being given a run of games as the number 9, with Mbeumo and Cunha either side, Ahmad in the 10, and start building something. That's what I want to see, So, again, the fact that the thing with Xavi, yeah, the reason why I think Xavi might be why Xavi will be an exciting appointment is because, for a start, he's not going to play 3 at the back, and I'm just interested to see who Xavi plays, because knowing Xavi as a player, yeah, that midfield you would have to believe will be containing the likes of Kobe, the experience of Casemiro, just getting us through to January where we can invest in the team. I don't believe Xavi will rate a Bruno Fernandes. I don't think he does, yeah? And that's a good sign. I think he will like players like Joshua Xerxes, who's a ball player. Ahmad, the same. I think he'll like Cunha, who's a maverick as well. And he'll like Mbeumo for me as well. So already, the appointment of Xavi, I can see, will like the players that I like. So this is why I wouldn't mind Xavi. I'm excited to a new appointment of a manager to see what they're going to bring. And he's definitely one of them. But Again, I think Premier League proven, I would have to lean towards, because if you've got managers that know what's required, it's a head start. You know, Xavi, I like Xavi as a player. What he did at Barca, you know, he didn't really do great at Barca. They won a league title under him. But what I liked about Xavi was the younger players that he was bringing through. And now you can see what Barca are doing. The likes of Pau Kabasi, the likes of Yamal, you know, making Pedri fundamental to that team. The likes of Ferran Torres, Fermin Lopez, you know, Alejandro Balde. A lot of the younger players that are coming through now was under Xavi. So I just hope if Xavi does come, you know, we can start seeing a Sekou Kone come through. You know, who's the other players? Shea Lacey, if he's good enough. Players like that, you know. And the players that we've already got in the squad that are the younger players that can come through and thrive. So this is what I hope from Xavi. But let's wait and see. Yeah, listen, Aiden Heaven should be playing. He should. You know, the fact that we're still seeing Luke Shaw, but the thing is now, it kind of makes sense why he's playing Luke Shaw, because when we're hearing reports that he's favouring the older players, this is why you're not seeing Aiden Heaven. You know, and this is why I said as well, the fact that Luke Shaw, him and Mason Mount, the fact that both of them players were injured for a period, and then they've now just come back into the first team like nothing. Again, it just shows you that this manager is just he's favouring the wrong players, you know, because when them guys were out injured, the likes of Heaven was playing. You know, other players were playing when Mount wasn't playing. Now that these two players have come back, yeah, from injury, they're starters. And again, their wage has to be justified, because you've got one player on 250, one player on 190, you know, which is an absolute disgrace. So, but again, the fact that they've come in and they're playing now is just laughable, really. So, yeah, man, it's just boring. Iftikhar says, will Erling have more goals than Mbappe at the end of the season? That's a good question, you know. That's a very good question. I would have to say, yeah, I think Haaland does get more goals. I think he does. I think he does, even though Mbappe is scoring goals at the moment. But I think Haaland does get more goals. You know, I think he does. Yeah, I think he does. I think the reason I'm saying he does is difficult, because a lot of it's going to depend on both of them staying fit as well, him and Mbappe. I mean, is the Spanish league, has it got a weaker defenses than the English league? You probably say yeah, which means that Mbappe might get more goals due to that. But I think the fact that Erling Haaland's just a serial goal scorer in terms of, you know, he plays on the shoulder, you know, he's a fox in the box kind of striker as well. I think I probably lean towards that. But I think what I will tell you in terms of numbers, I don't think there'll be much in it, you know. And I think as well, I'll tell you what's interesting about Erling Haaland and Mbappe. Not too long ago, people were talking about these two players as being the two that are going to take over from Messi and Ronaldo. Because it's quite obvious now, you know, well, I say quite obvious, it was always going to come to that. The Messi and Ronaldo domination is finished now. It's well and truly done. Both players are not playing in Europe. Both players are getting older. Both players are coming to the end of their career, you know, and those two were dominating the Ballon d'Or. I think people thought that Haaland and Mbappe, because of numbers, because of PR, were going to dominate the Ballon d'Or. I think it's quite exciting now that those two have work to do. If you think of Erling Haaland not finishing in the top 10 in the Ballon d'Or voting, you think of Mbappe finishing, I think it was 6th, or no, sorry, he finished 7th. And again, he shouldn't really have finished 7th. There should have been players in there ahead of him, but he got in there purely because of numbers and PR. I think these two now, if they're going to be, you know, looked at as being two of the players that are going to be in the era of the new Ballon d'Or favourites, because for me, Yamal is going to be there, then I think these two will have to, obviously had crazy seasons in terms of scoring goals, but leading their teams to titles. And it's crazy how not too long ago, as I said, these two were the top two who everyone were pitting against. You know, you got the left-footed Erling Haaland, the right-footed Mbappe. They were trying to do a Messi and Ronaldo comparison, even though both players don't play like anything like Messi. But it's the left-foot and right-footed conversation. So, yeah, I think those two will need to be there or thereabouts in the goal scoring, but most importantly, winning their team's titles. So, yeah, man, it is what it is. So MCFC fan says, who are you replacing him with? Zidane, Xavi, Iraola, Glasner. Those are the four names for a start. You know, again, just bring me a manager that wants to play the best players and play a cohesive system where you're getting front foot attacking football. That's all I ask for, man. It's not too much. Gav, opinion on Adeyemi being in form? Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I don't really rate Karim Adeyemi that highly, to be honest, of Borussia Dortmund. I don't really rate him that highly. You know, I think he's got a lot of pace. He's a bit of a hit. He's a bit of a hit and miss player for me. But obviously, I haven't been watching Dortmund too much, so I don't really know what form he's in. But yeah, I'm not a massive fan of Adeyemi personally. You know, I think he's got serious pace, but yeah, I'm not really a fan of his games too much, to be honest. You know. So, as a United fan, do you want to back Rashford? Do you want Rashford back to the team, or Barcelona will permanently keep him? In my opinion, and I've always said this, I don't believe Barcelona signed Rashford on the permanent. I don't believe that. I think it works for Rashford. It works for Barcelona. You know, they're getting a player that they needed to add to their squad in terms of his profile. You know, he's got the pace, and they needed someone in their attack as well, so they can rest players, etc. Do I want Rashford back at United? I don't. I think the ship sailed with Rashford. Man United need to be moving in a different direction, and for me, that is without Rashford. The very fact that Rashford's shirt number was given to Cunha spells the end, really, because you know Cunha's not going to give up that number 10 to put it back into the place of Rashford. So Rashford's time at United is well and truly done for me. Where he ends up next, I'm not too sure, but I just don't think that Barcelona sign him on a permanent. I don't. But yeah, to answer the question, I don't really want him back. United need to move on from Marcus Rashford now, you know, and I think for Rashford's career, he needs a fresh start anyway, you know, and it shouldn't be at United. So SOS Peter says, you've sacked your last couple of managers and it's getting worse every time. Well, again, SOS Peter, man, the facts are you have to keep sacking until you come to the right person. Like, I'm fine with that. You know what I mean? I'm actually fine with that, because what can't continue is what's happening right now. So when you're saying it's getting worse, I believe well, it's got worse under Amorim, because as bad as Ten Hag wasn't this bad. So yeah, it has got worse. But who do we blame that on? Because people want to look at the Glazers and look at Ineos. I hear that to an extent, but again, they don't tell Ruben Amorim to do certain things. So again, the buck stops with the manager. It does. So we have to sack the manager. It's as simple as that. King Cora says, people saying if he plays three midfielders, things will change. I don't buy that. So for me, I want to see a 4-2-3-1. You know, 4-2-3-1 is what I want to see. I know people want to see a 4-3-3. You know, one thing for certain is a 4 at the back. Because as I mentioned previously, this 3 at the back is not working. And it's not allowing Man United to get the best players in the team either, in certain positions. This system has already been proven, yeah, that it doesn't provide goals. And again, I've spoken about this already. If you look at when Amorim was at Sporting Lisbon, you know, when they had that freak season of beating their XG by 25 goals, yeah, which is unheard of, that should tell people that the system that Amorim is playing, the 3-4-2-1, was never going to work in the Premier League. Not because it can't work, but his interpretation of how he see certain players in certain positions. When you're beating your XG of 25 goals, that will tell you everything. That will tell you really that you had a freak striker in that league in Gyökeres who got mad numbers and the team overperformed by a massive amount. Because to get an XG over expected goals of 25 is not really heard of. So that will tell you that the system is not designed to producing goals. So when you're coming to a Premier League, which is a stronger league than the Portuguese league, and United don't really score goals, why are we surprised? Because the system is not designed to get numbers. That was proven in Portugal. Because you shouldn't be beating your XG by that amount. If you're beating your XG by about 3 or 4 goals, then you can say, fair enough, that's to be expected. But to beat it by that amount, that just shows it was a freak season. Because I can guarantee you this now, that won't be repeated. It won't be. And to think that he can bring this system to the Premier League and think that it's going to get better, it's going to produce anything, this is why you're seeing the team not score goals. You look at Sesko, Man United's number 9 striker. And again, people will tell you that the strikers are not good enough, etc. Nothing to do with that. If you've got a system in place that allows your team to create chance upon chance, your strikers will get chance to score. No, Man United strikers don't get chance to score. This system now is meaning that the wrong players are getting the chances, or your strikers not getting chance to score goals. When you've got your strikers between Xerxes and Sesko that are playing in the 9, that have 1 goal between them in 6 games, yeah? When are we going to start looking at this system as a problem? Because I can guarantee you this now, 4 at the back, yeah? 4 at the back, your striker's not getting, with a good system in play, your strikers between you haven't got 1 goal. Regardless if people think that these strikers are shit or not, which they're not, your striker's not getting 1 goal between them. That's a fact. This system is not creating chances. It's obvious. So again, if anyone thinks that this system will work, or the manager needs time, or these players are shit, have a look at the system, because the system is not designed to get goals. It's as simple as that. And that's proven in the Portuguese league, which they had a freak season, which won't be repeated. Yeah, listen, I thought Cherky was out for some time, but yeah, him and Rodri, they're taking part in full training today. They got Monaco tomorrow. So guys, make sure you come through as well. I'm gonna do a live watch along for the Barcelona PSG game, massive game. So yeah, I'm gonna do a live watch along. So yeah, make sure you guys come through and support the channel. Big up yourselves. GR says, Man United in a relegation fight, bro. This season is going to be a struggle. Listen, I'm not going to say United are in a relegation fight, because I've never seen, out of all my years supporting Manchester United, them being a relegation fight. But what I will tell you is, under this manager, if it continues any longer, they're a bottom half team. Because I've seen too much of this manager to know he's not making anything better. So they are a bottom half team for me. But relegation, I'm not even going to think about that. So Chrism says, if you have to pick one, Gav, Southgate or stick with Amorim? Oh my God. Do you know what? It's a great question because it's one of them things where, yeah, it's one of them questions, yeah, where it's one of them questions where whatever option you pick is not going to sit right. Southgate or stick with Amorim? That's difficult. I mean, I'd have to say stick with Amorim, like, because there's no part of me that's gonna see Gareth Southgate managing Manchester United. Because if you think the likes of Luke Shaw, Harry Maguire, Mason Mount, if you think those guys should be gone, if Southgate comes, them guys are starting games. So just based on that, I mean, they're starting games now, but I don't want to see Gareth Southgate's not coming to my club, so I'm not even fussed about that. So just stick with Amorim. But again, it's never going to come to that. We shouldn't be in a situation where we stick with Amorim or have Gareth Southgate. You know, that's at an all-time low for me. But as I said, man, just stick with Amorim if that's the case. But Yeah, just stick with Amorim, but sack him. So that's what I would say. Southgate is Premier League proven. My God, Premier League proven in what? Because he's never managed in it, so I don't know how he can be Premier League proven. So Keith says, why can't he play a formation the players are familiar with, but put his own stamp on it? He's stunner. But yeah, listen, Keith, the reason for that is because, as you said, his stubbornness will cost him. The reason for that is Ruben Amorim thinks he's clever. He thinks he's smarter than people. Yeah, that's the problem. Like, when he's coming into Manchester United, really what he's doing, yeah, he's putting himself above the club when you think about it. Because when he's coming through saying, I'm not changing this, I'm not changing that, basically what he's doing really is just saying to the club, look, I don't give a shit what you say. I'm going to play my way regardless if you like it or not. And ultimately, this is what's been his downfall. You know, so I've gone past the point of saying, is he going to change his team or not? Because it's quite obvious that he's not going to. You know, he's going to keep playing Bruno Fernandes. He's going to keep playing this system. So this is why it's down to Ineos now to just get rid of him. Because nothing's going to change. And he's made it quite obvious that he's going to stick with the manager. That he's going to stick with the system. So until, like, if things have to get worse before they get better, then so be it. Because he's not going to change, you know. I think he looks at it as, if he does change, then, like, he can't look at himself in the mirror in a sense. But at the end of the day, if he wants to stay with his stubbornness, it's not going to get better, man. That's what I will tell you. So Bezos comes in and says, Amorim's in talks for a contract extension. Ratcliffe is very happy that he was able to guide United into safety last season. So guys, look, we got people just bantering us, man, because this is what's happened. Amorim has now made us a laughing stock, even worse than Ten Hag for me. Ricky Killing says, and this is Gav goes in. Correct, Ricky, man. Correct. Michael R says, appoint Xavi. Ricky says, on protection wing in HMP Low Newton. AJ says, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I do feel sorry for United. Again, when you're getting opposition rivals feeling sorry for United, you know we're in a bad place. You know we're in a very bad place. Guys, make sure you're voting as well. So we got 38% says yes. No says 62%. So again, if you haven't voted, does Amorim deserve the backing? Make sure you put your vote in, guys. Let me know what you think. Jack Dong says Louis van Gaal is responsible for the Barca dynasty. Again, well, Johan Cruyff is really, you know, Johan Cruyff was responsible. If you look at a lot of the disciples of Johan Cruyff, Pep Guardiola is one of them. You know, Louis van Gaal is one of them as well. So it's not Louis van Gaal, it's Johan Cruyff, because the way the team plays is built off the back of how Johan Cruyff saw football. But then the likes of Van Gaal, Pep, they carried it on. Yeah. So yeah, it's not Louis van Gaal, man. It's Johan Cruyff. But listen, the fact that Louis van Gaal was trying to build something at United and the fan base just got too overexcited that Mourinho was available, you can arguably say that's killing us now. So yeah, is what it is. Kevin McGee is back. Kevin's back. Big up Kevin, man. Kevin's back. Let's see what Kevin comes up with now. So Van Gaal's footy was shocking, mate. He signed Di Maria, Falcao, Shaw, Herrera, Martial, Schneiderlin, Depay, Darmian, Blind, Rojo, LL. Who's LL? And Schweinsteiger. Spent a bomb. And again, you see where Kevin doesn't really get it, yeah? Is the fact that when Louis van Gaal was trying to put things in place, yeah, if again when he's saying that that he signed Di Maria, Falcao, Shaw, Herrera, and all these other players. Yeah, you're talking about players, Kevin, that were either at the end of their career or were younger players. Yeah, you look at Depay, look at Martial, even look at Luke Shaw as well. These were younger players. Yeah, Di Maria was probably, you would say, in his prime, but as we know with Di Maria didn't want to come to Man United in the first place. Radamel Falcao at Atletico Madrid was the best striker in the world. He was. But when he come to United, he was more or less coming to the end. Yeah. Not coming to the end, but he wasn't the same Falcao. Herrera for me was changed into an aggressive ball winning midfielder, which he wasn't. Schneiderlin, really shouldn't have been signed. Daily Blind, I like Daily Blind. Marcus Rojo was injury prone and was a bit of a liability at times. I'm not sure who LL is, and Schweinsteiger was wasn't really playing as much. So again, let's apply context to what you're talking about, because there's no doubt in that Louis van Gaal had the likes of Tyler Blackett, Guillermo Varela, a young Martial, Rashford. He had players that he gave careers to, Tyler Borthwick Jackson as well. He was giving careers to that we don't even hear about these players no more. So again, he was doing it off a shoestring budget. The players you're mentioning, yeah, whether he was responsible for signing all them players, a lot of them players were coming to the end or were younger players. The point I'm trying to make to you is that Louis van Gaal was building something. You look at how the youth were playing. The youth team were playing the same as the first team. Thank God the youth are not playing the same as the first team right now under Amorim, because that would be a problem. So again, Van Gaal was building something. Whether people want to accept it or not, he was definitely building something with not half the resources that the likes of Mourinho, even Solskjaer, Amorim, or Ten Hag have had. No one can deny that. Yeah. So the fact that Mourinho was available, which is why they sacked him. But his football wasn't shocking. It wasn't. If you think his football was shocking, it shows me that you don't really understand what he was trying to implement. Because there's nothing boring about going to Anfield and dominating. Because there's no Man United team under this manager, Ruben Amorim, that goes to Anfield and dominates. I've seen Louis van Gaal teams dominate Liverpool at Anfield. That's never going to happen now. People might say, the caliber of players were different, etc. But there's no denying any team that Liverpool have against Manchester United, you don't really go there and dominate games, because it's a rivalry going on there as well. But I've seen with my own eyes Louis van Gaal dominate games at Anfield with players that you'd be very surprised that should be a Man United player. That's a fact. So yeah. Edgar says, with Amorim, Man U go championship this season. Again, I don't want to go that far because I just don't see Man United getting relegated. But with this manager in charge, I'm not confident, put it that way. So Kevin says, Glasner is the obvious choice, out of contract in the summer, and has proven he can do it in the Prem. Big up to Kevin, man, because, for every bad take, there's a good take, So, listen, Glasner's definitely one of the names on the list, I think, as I said previously, do I think is Glasner my top choice with Iraola? I'd probably lean more towards Iraola purely because of the four at the back. But again, I don't believe Glasner plays four at the back at United. I think he's just playing the three at the back at Palace because he's adapting to what the players he's adapting to the players he has. So, but definitely Glasner deserves to be in the list, 100%. 100%. And Jack Dong says, Bruno is the only player who cares. He needs to stay. And again, Jack, yeah, when people come out with nonsense like this, yeah, again, everyone's free to their opinion, yeah. But when people say Bruno's the only one who cares, yeah, I'll tell you why he doesn't care, yeah. If he cared, he would have left the club. Because when the club is in dire straits, and as a player, he probably knows he's being shoehorned into the team by this manager. If he really cared, he would have left the club to allow the club to go and spend money to bring in replacements, because he's been there for a couple of years now, you know, and it's one of them things where if he really cared about the future of the club, he would have sacrificed himself. So when people say that he cares, he doesn't care. People look at the fact that Bruno is very passionate the way he plays as a reason to that he cares. I see through all that nonsense. Yeah, when Bruno punches the ground, you know, he throws his hands up in the air, he argues with the refs, you know, he gestures to the crowd to try and get them up for the game. All that is just fake bravado nonsense. Yeah. As a captain of the club, he doesn't lead by example. I've never seen a captain at Manchester United blame other players the way that he does. Yeah. So when you're saying he cares, he doesn't care. Bruno Fernandes cares about himself. That was evident by the penalty miss against Brentford, because he weren't playing great. Yeah. Brian Mbeumo wins the penalty against his former club. So he's a penalty taker as well, and a very good one, Mbeumo. Just like Cunha can take a penalty. So any leader will think, you know what? Let me put my own ego to the side and let Mbeumo take the penalty against his former club. You know, give him confidence. Even a Sesko, give him confidence, yeah? But oh no, what does Bruno go and do? Let me be the hero, take the penalty, he misses, yeah? And again, Bruno from the spot is very good, but he's missed 2 penalties this season, yeah? That's someone that just cares about themselves, regardless if you like it or not, yeah? That isn't someone that cares about the team. You know, all this fake bravado and that he does, you know, I can see through that. You know, I've been watching football, I've played football, I've been involved in football my whole life, yeah? And I can see when someone is just trying to con the fan base, which is what Bruno does on a regular basis. So I'm not fooled by any of this nonsense that Bruno does. So when you're saying he cares, you're right, he does care. He cares about himself, yeah? And the fact that he was, you know, 50-50 whether to go to Saudi or not, that's not a player who cares. Any player that cares about the club, yeah, when Saudi come in and wanted to bid for him, you shut that down instantly. It's quite clear that Bruno was contemplating whether to go. And of course you would be, because the money that was on offer was too hard to turn down. But ultimately he stayed because Amorim wanted him to stay. Bruno wanted to be the saviour, you know. But the facts are, if he cared, he would have gone. It's as simple as that. I'm not really here for anyone telling me that Bruno cares. I'm not here for that, really. I'll be honest. Big up to Falcao Jr. Falcao Jr. Big up, man. Guys, come on. There's 36 of you in there. 16 likes. Smash the like button if you're enjoying the content. Sub to the channel if you're new as well. And guys, put your vote in as well. We got 40% saying yes. 60% saying no. Does Amorim deserve the backing? You know? Luis Enrique's next challenge is Man U. We're not getting Luis Enrique. I would love Luis Enrique, but it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. So let's shut that one down. So Iftikhar says, before Xavi, they were at 9th. After Koeman, they won the league. Yeah. Listen, Xavi did struggle at Barca. He did. But the game that I remember is when Barca, I think, went away to Real Madrid and they absolutely destroyed them. They battered them 5-0 under Xavi. That's when I knew, you know, Xavi's definitely got something. When I'm seeing Xavi at Al Sadd in Saudi, and he was, you know, the way he was, I think there's, is it called The Coach's Voice? I think it might be called. If anyone knows, I think Xavi was having an interview talking about how he likes to set up his teams, etc. When I'm seeing the way Al Sadd were playing, which they had no right to with the players he has, this is when I knew Xavi had something about him. Then he went to Barcelona, obviously, brought through the players he brought through, won a league title with Barca, played Real Madrid off the park, you know. But again, they have standards, Barcelona. They sacked a club legend there. They have standards. But to think Xavi was doing these things, he has to be respected. He has to be respected. So, listen, if United go and get Xavi, who's on a free, you know, even though I'm sceptical because, you know, in a sense, we've been burnt by Amorim and Ten Hag with the players that they see. that they want to play. I just think Xavi will be different, and hopefully so, man. So, who knows? Look at that. Big up Iftikhar says, Xavi gave opportunities to Lamine, to Yamal, Pedri, Gavi, Araujo, Balde, and Kabasi. And all them players now are all key players, regular starters. Ronald Araujo, for me, you guys know, if you guys been watching the channel, you will know how highly I rate Ronald Araujo. Ronald Araujo, for me, is Liverpool's answer to Van Dijk. You know, I'm not saying he's as talented on the ball as Van Dijk in terms of his passing, his technique, etc. But in terms of his leadership, in terms of his physicality and his pace, Araujo, for me, is the closest defender I see to Van Dijk. I think he's that good. You know, if he just stays injury-free, then, you know, he's going to have a big say into what Barca do this season in the league and Champions League. And if you look at all those players, Yamal, Pedri, Gavi's out injured now, Yamal, Pedri, Araujo, Balde, and Kabasi, you're talking about four players there, 5 players there, sorry. When they're all fit, they're all starters and key players. You know, Araujo's the captain, key centre-back, along with Kabasi. Balde's out injured, but he's the first choice left-back. Pedri and Yamal, you know, you guys know my thoughts and feelings on those 2 players. They're the 2 best players in the world for me in their positions. So when you're seeing that Xavi, you know, was instrumental in them players, why wouldn't you want Xavi at your club? Why wouldn't you? Because all them players there I rate. They're all ball players. I rate all them. There you go. Kevin says, so Jack says, La Liga is a 3-team league, not hard to win the league if Barca, Real, or Atletico. What does that mean, though? La Liga is a 3-team league, not hard to win the league if Barca, Real, or Atletico. I don't know what that means, but what I will tell you, though, Jack, yeah? Do you think if Liverpool and Man City came, because I'm guessing you're talking about, and then Kevin says it's a 2-team league, yeah? Do you think if Arsenal, Liverpool, and Man City went to La Liga, do you think that those 3 teams there would dominate La Liga? Because I'm telling you now, they wouldn't. They wouldn't dominate La Liga. So again, when people come out with things like this, and you're talking about Barca, Real, or Atletico, yeah? You put what the best the Prem has to offer in Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City right now. Do you think Liverpool, Arsenal, and Man City go and dominate La Liga? Because I can guarantee you this now, they don't. Because you're looking at the La Liga being a 3-team league, yeah? Don't discount some of the teams in La Liga. Don't discount them. Because I can guarantee you this now, those three teams in the Premier League wouldn't go to Spain and dominate. They wouldn't. I'm telling you that now from experience of watching football. Them 3 teams wouldn't go and dominate La Liga. I promise you that now. People might look at the physicality, but these teams are adept at keeping the ball. You look at Atletico. Atletico can match it physically with the Premiership teams. But then you've got Barca and Real, who are just pure footballing teams, you know, but can match it physically as well. So don't be surprised if those 3 teams, if they was to be in the La Liga, they wouldn't dominate. Obviously, it's never going to happen. But when you're hearing that La Liga is a 3-team league, don't discount these other teams, because the Premier League is the best league in terms of entertainment, not the best league for quality. It's not. So when people say it's the best league, for competitiveness, it is. Not for the best football. It's not. Big up, Mike. Gav, would you take Camavinga at United even if he's injury prone? Mike, great question. Listen, Eduardo Camavinga is one of my favourite players. I wanted Camavinga when he was at Rennes before he went to Real Madrid. And Man United fumbled it. Because when Camavinga was wearing that number 10 shirt for Rennes, I said, go and snap him up. Just like I'm saying about with what's his name? Carlos Baleba. Me personally, I don't really care Camavinga's injury prone, you know, because I think he'll get over his injuries eventually, yeah. But I've wanted Camavinga at Man United ever since he was at Rennes, before he went Real Madrid. He went to Real Madrid for 30 million, guys. 30 million for a player of that caliber. Yeah? 30 million. So that's an easy question for me. You know, he's the number one midfielder I will take at Manchester United. And again, people might say he's injury prone. Again, I don't think he's injury prone. I just think he's picked up a couple of knocks, but he'll get over that. He's still young. To think Camavinga is only, what, 21 or 22. This was a player that made his debut for Rennes at 16. Yeah, maybe 15. I remember watching him for Rennes, just bossing games in midfield, you know, before he got the number 10 shirt and then got the move to Real Madrid. So I would take Camavinga in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat, you know. I'll go as far and say, guys, I will take Camavinga over Baleba, because I rate Camavinga that highly. I think when Camavinga's fit, I talk about the 4 best midfielders in the world right now, which is Pedri, Vitinha, Moises Caicedo, and Ryan Gravenberch. Camavinga, when he's fit, and De Jong has to be up there as well. Camavinga, when he's fit, is easily in that list. Easily in that list. So I'll take him in a heartbeat. Rodri won the Ballon d'Or, not because of numbers, but because the performances. Just look at Pedri this season. He's got 22. Big up to Iftikhar. 100%. The Ballon d'Or should always be based on who the best player is. It never should be numbers. But unfortunately now, numbers are a big part of why people are given the Ballon d'Or. That's a fact. So I'm always of the belief, yeah, that it should be given to the best players. When we look at the likes of Ronaldinho, Zidane, all these players, Luka Modric, you know, these players that have won the Ballon d'Or in the past, go and have a look at the numbers. The numbers are nowhere hitting the likes of what we're seeing now. Do you really think Ronaldinho, another one, Ronaldinho, Zidane, Modric, and all these kind of players that won Ballon d'Or, these guys were hitting nowhere near 55 GA. They probably weren't even hitting more than 20, if we're being serious. But we just knew that these players were the best players in the world. Unfortunately now, we're seeing the Ballon d'Or being given to players that have high numbers. But the fact that Rodri was given it was a sign that, you know, football isn't dead. Because Rodri didn't get mad numbers, but we just knew how good Rodri was as a player, how fundamental he was to Man City and to Spain. So, Gav, bit controversial, but would you say Mbappe and Benham are overrated? Mike, big up yourself, man. It's not controversial. They are overrated. They are. Like, if anyone thinks, like, put it this way, let's dissect both players, yeah? Kylian Mbappe, for me, in terms of football, how we see football now, he's overrated in the sense of, I think a lot of fans think he's a lot better than what was made out to be. And why I say that, yeah? Kylian Mbappe's anomaly is his pace. Well, yeah, it's his pace and his athleticism, yeah? He's very quick, very, very dynamic, very direct, yeah? Which is what is the makeup of why fans love Mbappe, really, yeah? Not to mention he does score goals as well. The biggest thing that I rate about Mbappe is his big match temperament. You know, you look at that World Cup where he had 3 penalties and he scored all 3. That takes temperament, you know, in that World Cup final. So I look at Mbappe as someone that he's got that to his game. I look at Mbappe at the fact that going to Real Madrid, if we're looking at numbers, he has been consistent so far. But in terms of overrated in how players saw Mbappe, someone that was going to dominate the Ballon d'Or, etc., the fact that Ousmane Dembele won a Ballon d'Or before him just goes to show that, you know, the hype that Mbappe was getting is kind of now been put into order. Because there's no one on here that would tell me that Dembele was going to get a Ballon d'Or before Mbappe. You're lying to yourself if you think that. Mbappe was always meant to be getting a Ballon d'Or before Ousmane Dembele. The fact that Dembele has got one before Mbappe is good news because as a footballer, Dembele is a better footballer than Mbappe. But Mbappe's got the PR, he's got the pace, he's got the dynamism. Yeah. So in that sense, he is overrated. Even though his career so far in terms of numbers has been good for Real Madrid. But let's face it, he's won no trophies with them, which is what he would be looking at. Jude Bellingham is a different case because Jude Bellingham purely is at Real Madrid because of marketing, because of PR. You know, light-skinned guy with a sharp hairline, you know, English and a passionate player as well, PR to the max. This is why Jude Bellingham is getting hyped up the way he is. Not because he's actually a great player. He's not a good player. He's not. He's just an average run-of-the-mill kind of player that has physicality in a league that is not really known for their physicality. That's a fact. Because if Jude Bellingham was to come back to England and play, he'll just be looked at as another player because this league has a lot of physicality. But when I'm seeing Bellingham and Mbappe being talked in the way, especially Bellingham, in conversations that, let's be honest, man, they should be nowhere near, then this is when it's like, yeah, football's gone. Football's gone in that sense. Do I believe Bellingham should be at Real Madrid? Hell no. When I look at the kind of players that Real Madrid have had, Jude Bellingham is nowhere near that level. But again, because people look at numbers, they'll think he has the right to be there because of numbers. This is all people care about. But when you're looking at some of the midfielders, I mean, if any of you remember a player called Guti at Real Madrid, if any of you guys watched Guti didn't get mad numbers, yeah, and wasn't really a starter like that for Real Madrid. But if you know about Guti was an absolute baller. He was, yeah. And this was a guy that was in the Real Madrid team when they had the likes of R9, Raul, Zidane, Figo, who else was there? Makaleli. They had some serious players in their midfield, and Guti wasn't really a starter like that. But you'll get fans saying to you that Jude Bellingham was better than Guti. Based off what? Numbers. And this is where football's finished because if any of you guys have watched Guti with that left foot, Guti was special. He was a special player that was playing in a team with a lot of world-class players. Yeah? But again, when you're seeing the likes of Bellingham at Real Madrid and people talking about him as being in the Ballon d'Or voting and stuff like that, this is how you know football's gone. So to answer your question, Mike, yeah, great question. Do I think Mbappe and Bellingham are overrated? Massively. Massively overrated. Jack Dong says, Rodri stole Vinny Jr.'s trophy. I don't believe he did. Vinicius Jr. had a chance to win the trophy and finish second. But the fact that football awarded it to Rodri, I'm happy because it means that football has some sense of he has common sense. Because even though Vinny won, I think they won did they win Champions League? I think Vinny got good numbers, was in the conversation to win the Ballon d'Or, but Rodri was unreal that season. You know, Spain won the Euros. Spain won the Euros. I can't remember if City won the Champions League then. I can't remember, but Rodri was fundamental. He was fundamental in. I think they won. I think City won the league as well, I believe, and Rodri was fundamental in all those competitions. So the fact that he was given the trophy was good viewing, even though Vinicius Jr. probably was hard done by. But as you can see now, yeah, the fact that Mbappe's come to Real Madrid and Vinicius Jr. has dropped off, you know, that's been coincided with Mbappe being there because you've got two players there that are superstars in their own right in how they're being seen in world football. They can't coexist in the same team because something has to give. And last season, Vinicius Jr. was the one that was the fall guy for Mbappe to thrive. You know, to think that Vinicius Jr. wasn't even in the top 10 from being second last time. I think, was he even in the top 20? I can't remember. Crazy. Jordan says, do you really think a new manager after new manager after new manager is really going for this club? You all tell me. I do, Jordan. I do. You keep sacking the manager until you come to the right person. It's as simple as that. You know, I've done the comparison. You know, if you're running a business and the manager's failing, do you just keep him in charge if he's losing you money? The answer is no. So as I said, man, you keep sacking until you come to the right person. So Donley Wilson says, did you not hear he's not changing his system? Donley, I'm not sure if that's a question to the chat or to myself, but who told you he's going to change the system? I'm fully aware, if it's to me, that he's not changing the system. This is why he's going to get sacked. Big up to Evan Jr. Big up to Melon Pip says, hello, Gav, new to the channel. How's it going? Yeah, big up Melon, man. Appreciate you coming through. Again, guys, when you're in it, make sure you smash the like button if you haven't done so already. And if you're new, make sure you sub to the channel. And guys, check out my other content as well. And make sure you're giving your vote as well, guys. Big up. Crystal Palace made me so proud already this season. Listen, Melon, you've got a very good manager in Oliver Glasner. And you've got some good players in a good system. You know, you think of Adam Walton, Mateta, Ismail Assar, Mark Guehi, Lacroix, Munoz. You know, you've got the core of a very, very good team. You know, can you maintain a top 4 push? It's unlikely. But I tell you now, under this manager, you know, you can't write off Palace, man, because unbeaten in 17 games. That's the first time it's happened under a Palace manager. So, yeah, listen, man. They're going well. They're going well. Has to be said. So EA has been bought for 55 billion. Does that mean no FC anymore? Don't know, man. I never heard that. Don't know. If it's getting back to EA Sports, man, it's a good sign. Because that's what I grew up on, EA Sports. It's in the game, if anyone knows. So Kevin says, how many teams have won in the last 8 years? It's a 2-team league. I mean, it's not, well, when you're saying it's a 2-team league, I mean, I think Arsenal fans will have something to say about that right now. Again, when you're saying it's a 2-team league, I mean, it's hard to say that, man. It's hard to say that. My point to you is, yeah, I think the way you're saying that, I'm not sure if you're trying to discredit the Spanish league, but I can guarantee you this: if you put those Premier League teams into the Spanish league, they're not going to have it its own way. I can guarantee you that. So whether this league is weak, yeah, if you're saying it's a 2-team league, or whether you're just overemphasizing those teams, because Man City have definitely dropped off. Liverpool haven't been great, you know. Arsenal haven't won. Haven't won a league in how many years? So again, is it a drop off from? Is the league declined, which I think it has, or are you just discrediting the Spanish leagues, the Spanish league? So Jordan says, yeah, but Gav, you say about getting better. It's just got worse since 2013. Nothing at all has gotten better at all. As I say, it probably won't get better for about the next 20 or 30 years the way it is. I disagree. I think the fact that Ineos have come in and they've tried to put a structure in place, which hasn't been there. The thing for me, the biggest thing for me is the manager. Because if you bring in a manager, as I said, the ones we've been mentioning, I'm not saying Man United are going to go and win a league straight away. That's not what I'm saying, yeah? But the first thing is playing better football. Playing better football, getting the best players on the pitch is always a good start, you know? When you can't identify who your best players are, this is when issues start. So until that happens, I'm not going to say it can take 20 to 30 years, because I think a lot of you are you know, you're not really putting too much emphasis on how bad the manager is. You know, I can guarantee you this now. The manager gets changed, you will see an upturn in performances and results because it's about, you know, changing the system for me, and it's about identifying the best players to play in a cohesive system. You know, you go and bring a manager in that understands, you know, how to set up a team properly. You're gonna see an instant change. I have no doubt about that. No doubt. Big up to Gina for coming through. Big up, Gina. Big up to not me. Random question says, "Hey brother, how you been? Just wondering if you're still down with Thai food." Oh, love. Of course, man. Thai food can't be beaten, man. I love Thai food. I do. Um, Jordan said, "Oh, Jordan from Wales, man. Merthyr Tydfil. Big up, man. Big up. Merthyr Tydfil, man. That's a rough area, man. I've heard. Big up, Jordan. I doubt any of you would have heard of them, but the way the United team are right now, my local team would give United a run for their money." Yeah, Jordan, man, I've heard of Merthyr Tydfil, 100%, man. Of course, I've heard it's a rough area, man. Rough area. But big up for coming through, man. Big up yourself. 12 blokes can't get a 12 ball into a 20-foot net without all this. Gary Warren says, Bruno, the Sacha Baron Cohen of character. Yeah, Bruno's a clown, man. He is. He is. Big up to Winston Churchill. So Jordan says, where do we go from here? Be real. Where do you think we will end up from this stage? Where do we go from here? So you sack the manager. You sack the manager. Then appointment of a new manager. I think there'll be an instant upturn in performances. As I said, and I'm not going to keep repeating it, just bring me a manager in that wants to play four at the back, yeah, to start with, cohesive brand of football and play the best players. Let them build camaraderie, and then you're going to get an upturn in performances, confidence as a result, you know? But big up. Gav, opinion on Serie A top three having the same amount of points. They all have 12 each. Who's that? Napoli, Inter, and who's the other team? Napoli, Inter, and who's the other team? I'm not really paying attention to Serie A, to be honest, but yeah, listen, Neymar's one of the best players, man, to play the game for me. He is. He's not underrated. He's not underrated on this channel. Clearly not. Right, guys, I'm going to go through a few more of your comments and questions before we wrap up. Again, if you haven't voted, make sure you put your vote in. Smash the like button. We got 11 of you on there at the moment. 22 likes. Let's smash the like button, guys, if you enjoy the content today. So Kevin says, Guti and Bellingham were completely different positions. Again, you just don't understand, Kevin. You just don't understand. Like, I'm not comparing positions. I'm comparing players. Yeah? Jude Bellingham is a box-to-box midfielder. Guti was playing a different system. You would say a number 10, but could play central midfield. I'm talking about the qualities of the players, not about like it's. I don't even know what you're trying to say really, but we're talking about the qualities of the players. So again, as Iftika says, Guti was a magician. Guti was very underrated. So you're saying Guti was more like a Cruz. I see where you're going with it, Kevin. I wouldn't say he was like Cruz. It's hard to say who he was like. He was like a number 10 come central midfielder. You know, I can see where you're going with the Cruz comparison. But no one's comparing him to Jude Bellingham. I'm talking about the quality of the players. Because because Guti wasn't in no top 10, top 20 Ballon d'Or chat. He wasn't. But he wasn't in no top 10 or top 20 Ballon d'Or chat. But Bellingham has been, which shows you how football's dropped off. So Guti wasn't a box-to-box midfielder, Iftikhar. He wasn't. He was more of a deep-lying playmaker or a number 10. He wasn't box-to-box like Jude Bellingham is. Big up to Lumi. Big up Lumi each and every time. What's your prediction on Chelsea versus Benfica? I'll tell you one thing, yeah. If Enzo Maresca doesn't win that game, he's under serious pressure. I'm gonna say Chelsea at home against Benfica. I'm gonna say they win that narrowly. I'm gonna say 1-0, 2-1. But Mourinho coming back to Stamford Bridge, he's gonna make them hard to beat, man. So but I think Chelsea win the game. I'm gonna say by a narrow margin though. 1-0 or 2-1. So Kevin says, so Gav, have you checked the lineups under Carrick yet? I'm awaiting my apology. What apology is this? Let me check it for you now, just while we're live on stream, yeah, to put you to bed. Because again, you seem very interested in this, yeah. Let's check. Just bear me 1 minute, guys. I want to check this for Kevin. Right, let's check this out. Right, let's see this. So right, guys. Maybe 1 minute. Right. Right, guys, are you ready for this, yeah? Because again, so we're talking about Man United's first ever lineup under Michael Carrick, yeah? So here we have it, guys. Man United's first lineup under Michael Carrick in 2021. I read to you, yeah? Give me 1 minute. Where is it gone? Right. So Man United's first ever lineup under Michael Carrick in 2021 against Villarreal. David De Gea in goal. A back four of Aaron Wan-Bissaka at right back, Alex Telles at left back, Victor Lindelof, and Harry Maguire as the 2 centre-backs. The midfield 2 of Scott McTominay and Fred. Donny van der Beek in the 10. Jadon Sancho on the right. Martial on the left. Cristiano Ronaldo as the striker. No Bruno Fernandes. Yeah? So again, Michael Carrick's first ever lineup, guys, for Manchester United against Villarreal. Just so Kevin is aware, yeah? And we'll read it again. De Gea, Wan-Bissaka, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire, Alex Telles, Scott McTominay, Fred, Sancho, Van der Beek, Martial, Ronaldo. There you have it, yeah? Kevin, does that put you to bed then, Kevin, yeah? Yeah, big up to Iftikhar, bro. Big up, man. Big up. So, guys, you've heard it here. Michael Carrick's first team, dropping Bruno Fernandes. This is what we're getting to. So, fun fact, Real Madrid will have to travel 10,000 kilometers to play against Kairat in the Champions League. That's madness. Madness. Yeah, it is what it is. Madness. Right, guys, we're going to wrap up anyway. Big up yourselves for coming through each and every time. Guys, as always, if you're new in here, make sure you sub to the channel. If you're new, make sure you check out all my other content as well. And make sure you smash the like button, guys, as well. Obviously, when you smash the like button, it helps the channel to be seen by more people. And as I said, it's much appreciated you guys coming through. Big up to all the newcomers. Big up to the mods each and every time as well. And guys, don't forget to vote. So we've got, at the moment, 55 votes. Does Amorim deserve the backing? Yes, 43%. No, 57%. So as I said, make sure, guys, you put your vote in as well. Let me know what you think. Guys, I'm going to be back tomorrow. I'm not sure if I'm going to be back tomorrow in morning, but I'm going to give you guys a live watch along for the Barcelona PSG game. So again, make sure you guys come through and interact with the channel and in the chat as well and support the channel. And yeah, massive game, PSG, Barca. You know, this should be a Champions League final if we're being serious. But the fact that we're getting it early on, you know, in the second game of the Champions League is great viewing, really. So, so as I said, make sure you guys come and support. Big up to Kevin each and every time. Even if Kevin, you know, even if he has got it wrong on Bruno Fernandes starting against Villarreal in Carrick's first ever game. Listen, we can't all get things right, man. It's life. But as I said, if you're someone that sticks by your opinion and you think Bruno started Carrick's first ever game, then fair enough, man. If you believe it, I've given you the facts that he didn't, and it is what it is. But guys, listen up. Big up yourselves each and every time for coming on. As I said, catch me tomorrow, live watch along, PSG versus Barcelona. Sure to be a great game. And as I said, Kevin, make sure you're coming through as well, man. And yeah, as I said, man, you can discuss your love for Bruno Fernandes, man. It's all love, man. It's all love in there. But big up, man, anyway. But guys, catch you guys in a bit. Sub to the channel if you're new, as I said. Smash the like button on the way out. Make sure you vote as well on Amorim. Does he deserve the backing? And yeah, as I said, I'm going to catch you guys tomorrow. Take it easy.